So this is actually a video topic that was determined a while back by my members, who not only get exclusive videos and live streams, but they even help dictate some of the videos. So if you're interested in becoming a member, you can check out the options in the pinned comment. Who is the greatest quote stopper of every NBA legend? Obviously, there have been a ton of legends throughout the game's history, so this will just be part one of an ongoing series. But again, if you could only trust one player to put the clamps on a specific superstar, who would you choose? For example, many of you will remember that Ruben Patterson of the Portland Trail Blazers was once nicknamed the Kobe Stopper, based on how well he defended the Black Mamba. Whether or not he deserved that title is something we'll dive into in a bit, but you get the example of how this works. So ultimately, if you're gonna win against the best players, then you gotta have the right cards to play. That's why today's video is brought to you by Arena Club. I've been collecting basketball cards from a very early age. I loved spending hours as a kid ripping packs and experiencing the thrill of finding that card. As I've gotten older, my collecting waned. That is, until I found Arena Club. Arena Club lets you enjoy the thrill of card collecting while eliminating the grind of grading, buying, selling, and trading. What used to take weeks now all happens in one place on their digital platform. Get authentic graded cards instantly and decide to hold, sell, or have the cards shipped to you directly. You can also take an instant cash offer based on market value. As you can see here, I opened a Ruby pack and pulled this mid-condition SGA Silver Prism, which was an incredibly pleasant surprise to pull the MVP. I'm so happy I found Arena Club because they've helped me get back into the card collecting hobby. If you've been looking to get back into card collecting too and don't know where to start, look no further than Arena Club. Right now, you can get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/JohnnyArnett and use code JohnnyArnett at checkout. First off, let's look at Wilt Chamberlain. As you all know, this guy was an athletic specimen, but he was also a statistical monster, as one of his many nicknames was in fact the record book. Thanks in large part to his remarkable length, strength, and leaping ability, Wilt was able to dominate the competition on a nightly basis. But two guys specifically gave him problems. The first was obviously Bill Russell. This Celtics legend was quite possibly the greatest defensive player in the history of basketball. And whenever it came down to the pivotal moments of playoff games, it was usually Bill Russell who got the last laugh. Even in Wilt's famous 1962 season, where he averaged 50.4 points per game, he only averaged 39.7 points against Bill Russell. Now again, that's still ridiculous. But shaving off over 10 points per game thanks to one man's defense is nothing to scoff at. With that being said, I actually don't have Bill Russell as the best stopper for Wilt Chamberlain, but rather, I believe it was the 6'11" Nate Thurmond. Although he is underrated and under-recognized today, there is no question in my mind that Thurmond was one of the greatest defensive players that this league has ever seen. And those who know their 60s history will know that this guy always did a fantastic job of defending the Big Dipper, as he was quite possibly the only player who nearly matched Wilt in terms of strength. Even Wilt Chamberlain once agreed with my conclusion. As he said in the past, he's probably the toughest center of all time for me to play against, tougher than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Bill Russell. In his rookie season in 1964, he was actually the backup to Chamberlain on the San Francisco Warriors, meaning he got plenty of time to play against him in team practices and learn his game. Well, it paid off throughout the rest of his career, because there was probably no one who did a better job of containing Wilt. From 1965 until his retirement in 1973, Wilt averaged 23.1 points on 58.1% shooting. But over that same stretch of time, whenever he was up against Nate Thurmond, he only averaged 15.7 points on 52.4% shooting. That's nearly an 8-point drop and 6% drop in efficiency. Beyond that, he even seemed hesitant to attack Thurmond as often as other centers, as Wilt averaged 5 less shots per game against his old teammate. I'm sure many people would take Bill Russell, and honestly, I wouldn't fault them if they did. But for me, if I need one guy to stop Wilt Chamberlain, then give me Nate the Great Thurmond. Next, we're trying to stop Kobe Bryant. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Ruben Patterson was famously referred to as the Kobe stopper. But in hindsight, that was probably a mistake, because the Mamba basically never stopped torching him after that famous moment. In Kobe's career, he averaged about 25 points per game, but in his career versus Ruben Patterson, the so-called Kobe stopper, he averaged 29.3. Not only did he increase his scoring against Ruben, but he also averaged more rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals. So yeah, not much stopping was going on. If you ask me, the best player to try to contain Kobe is also the guy that Kobe himself said was the best defender he's ever played against, which was Tony Allen. When Allen was on the Grizzlies and Kobe on the Lakers, they had plenty of great regular season battles in the Western Conference. But before that, when Tony was on the Boston Celtics, they battled many times in the NBA Finals. Now, Kobe's scoring average remained just about the same against Tony, but he had to work for every point, as his efficiency plummeted against the all-defender. For his career, Kobe was a 44.7% field goal shooter, but against Allen in the regular season, he only shot 42% and 28.7% from three-point range. And in the playoffs, it got even worse, as Kobe was only making 38.7% of his shots against Allen on the game's biggest stage. Again, this one shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, as Kobe used to constantly give Tony his flowers. But even the great Kevin Durant has echoed this sentiment, claiming that Allen was the best defender he's ever faced as well. Next up is Tim Duncan. The big fundamental was one of the most dependable and consistent players that the game has ever seen, and when the lights were the brightest, that's when he was usually at his best. Now, one of the players who played against him pretty well was also one of the greatest power forwards of all time, and I'm talking about Kevin Garnett. With the Big Ticket's 12 All-Defense Team selections, it was never an easy night whenever Duncan had a matchup with him, so he's definitely worth an honorable mention. But if you ask me, the closest thing we ever saw to a Tim Duncan stopper was the player most known for his technical fouls, Rasheed Wallace. Sheed and Duncan met up many times in the NBA playoffs, including some major matchups in the NBA Finals. In the regular season, Duncan was about 5% less efficient from the field when matched up with Rasheed. And the playoffs were even tougher, as Duncan shot 44.6% from the field in his 11 playoff games against Wallace. Specifically, in the 2005 NBA Finals, Wallace did a fantastic job of neutralizing Duncan. Yes, the Spurs won the championship in 2005, but for what it's worth, Tim had a tough time against Wallace in that series, as Duncan averaged 20.6 points on 41.9% shooting from the field, with games where he had shot 5 of 15, 5 of 17, and 10 of 27 in the championship clincher. That's about as close to being a Tim Duncan stopper as anyone can get. Last on today's list, we're looking at LeBron James. One of the players who famously did an excellent job on LeBron was one of the greatest wing defenders in Spurs history, Bruce Bowen. When a young LeBron James made it to the NBA Finals in 2007, it was Bowen who had the main assignment of containing James, and he did so beautifully, as LeBron averaged just 22 points per game while hitting only 35.6% of his shots over the course of the series. With that being said, the war was kinda short-lived, as this was the only time that the two players met up in the NBA playoffs, since Bruce Bowen retired in 2009, meaning he never had the opportunity to guard a prime LeBron James. Also consider the fact that outside of that 4-game final series, LeBron usually ate pretty well against Bowen, as he averaged nearly 29, 7, and 6 on over 50% shooting from the field. So for me, if I need a guy to lock down a prime LeBron James, I'd rather have another San Antonio Spur, and that's Kawhi Leonard. Remember, this is the guy who visibly made LeBron James frustrated just by checking back into the game. Whenever they met up in the NBA Finals, Kawhi usually did a solid job, but his frustrating defense continued on James long after his Miami days. For example, between 2016 and late 2020, there was about a 4.5-year stretch where LeBron did not have a single 30-point game against Kawhi Leonard. It goes without saying, very few players can say they successfully contained LeBron for such a long length of time. Ultimately, there is no completely sure player to lock down this all-time great, but if I was a betting man, I would place my bets on Leonard. So what do you guys think? Do you agree with my picks? Or was there someone else that you would have chosen instead? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below. Shout out to the members for picking this video, and we'll soon be figuring out what video you guys would like to see next. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.